Hello Ratbags, it's Jade. A special Smallands video today, a Q&A sort of podcast discussion with the creator, lead designer of Smallands. What it is today in 2021, a fantastic sandbox survival game that's going to be coming to Steam and consoles in the future. You're going to learn about taming, base building, the world, lore, story, creatures, weather and all sorts of stuff in today's video. It is a bit of a long one. I have broken it down into timestamps if you want to skip a few parts, but big shout out to Merge Games and Kev for coming and chatting to me. And yeah, definitely keep your eyes on this one. This could be one of the biggest survival games going in the future. As always, make sure you like and you subscribe and say hello to Kev.
Hey, thanks for having me.
No worries. How you doing?
Good. Excited, always busy, but yeah, really looking forward to this and sharing some of the secrets and background information on Smalland.
Yeah, everything's ramping up. Like your Steam pages had a revamp. You got brand new screenshots. You got trailers. You got Q&As coming out of your ears. There's loads of good stuff happening at the moment.
It is, yeah. It's good. We've got a lot of this kind of stuff planned. The dev team and Merge working kind of hand in hand to get us across. It's good, and we're getting really good feedback, which is, to me personally, well, for everybody, it's great, but. I'm working late at night, and people on Discord, everyone's supportive, and it makes it all worth it, and it's great to see. So yeah, it's good time for Smalland at the minute. It's all positive.
Great stuff. Now, if you're brand new, you haven't seen my video, you haven't really seen Smalland, like stock question, but what is Smalland in your opinion? So
Smalland, yeah, it's a survival game, and with a survival game, there's certain expectations with construction and fighting, combat, building, base, that kind of ownership. Smalland as well, what we kind of inject into it is, the biggest thing is the perspective. So you've seen the perspective, you're this kind of tiny little person. So with that, we want to make sure that there's a certain kind of lore guiding you and everything makes sense. So Smalland is made up of lots of different systems that all kind of cross-weave and interconnect to build this much bigger picture. One of the biggest elements of that is, and from the best survival games in the kind of team's opinion, the one thing that we love the most is the kind of exploration, and the exploration goes really hand in hand with the size. And what's kind of weird is, even though you as the player have never been shrank down literally, you do have some context to some of the things that we've got in. Like, what would it be like? How if I was like this, how would I imagine it working? If I was tiny, could I fit in this? Where does this go? So using that and the survival mechanics and this whole really, really big focus on exploration, we've created this kind of big, giant world with its own lore, but the lore helps guide the player through things and gives reasoning and exploration. So it's just this really big survival game, co-op, PvP elements, a lot of PvE kind of focus, where you interact with creatures and there's things to discover and uncover, and hopefully a load of depth. So yeah, I think that's pretty small in a nutshell, quite a big nutshell. But yeah, that's small.
No, that's great. I mean, there was a lot of great stuff you're ticking off in that box there. Taming, like from covering other games, so many really do well when they have something you can have like creatures and stuff. So yeah, I'm all down for that. And the world does look great. Like the scale of it is pretty big. It's much larger than I thought it'd be so far from stuff we've seen. And it just looks really interesting. The biomes, the art style is pretty unique as well. You've got these little creatures, these smallanders. Are they called smallanders or something different?
So we haven't got a name for them yet. So it's bouncing around. We've got everyone on Discord. They kind of voted and they called themselves small folk. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of cool. We like that. Then we had smallanders. What we're trying to do is have like a fantasy element that you can relate to.
Right.
It's something where, so it's a lot more like, I suppose, Conan than it is Lord of the Rings. So Lord of the Rings being high fantasy, and the more you learn about the languages and the cultures of these things, the kind of story progresses. Whereas Conan is very like pulp. It's very kind of face value.
Yeah.
So we're starting with that because we have a really wide kind of audience. Some people like, you know yourself, right? The survival games, there's not one type of player. There's
Yeah,
a huge
there's such a big gamut. People that like multiplayer, people that just like stories, some people just like exploring, some people love like the taming or just some of the harshness of survival.
Exactly, yeah. It's like, you know, people want hardcore PvP and base raiding and the kind of intricate minutiae of how you structure things. Other ones just want to mess about and ride creatures. So we have a very, very kind of wide audience. So, you know, during early access, we'll work out what people like the most, what people, you know, so all kind of big plans. Like, for instance, the taming, it was going to be something much later.
Right.
We did some tests and went, hang on, this is really good fun. You know, this is great fun. Same as the gliding. The gliding was meant to be something that much later on we're like, no, it's an exploration game, and it makes exploration fun. So let's kind of bring it in sooner. So yeah, it's having all these elements in that kind of cover as many bases as possible, but they've got to also have depth, which is why everything kind of talks to each other. Everything is done for a reason. You know, everything is kind of planned out, which should give us this kind of really, really solid game that takes some of the best elements of all kind of survival games, but has enough kind of filters or lenses that make it its own thing. You know, it's definitely a unique experience, and that's not just the height and perspective, but all the systems lean into that and support that. So
yeah, it's definitely try and be its own thing.
Yeah, definitely. You know, because like I say, we played loads of survival games. And we looked at what was good and what we felt was great and what suits this setting. You know, what works the best.
Oh, great stuff. So you did mention early access, and we presume that's coming. You had a few announcements last year and said that you would be aiming at 2021. So is that still the case of early access this year?
Yeah, that's still the case. You know, every week I'm looking at the schedule and making sure that, you know, we don't spread ourselves too thin. We make sure that everything goes in solid, and that, you know, everything. You know, when we hit early access, it's exactly what we want. You know, it's a good quality, and it's like, there's the vision. That's it. That's what we're going to do. And then the plan is to, you know, start increasing the amount of content and increase the world, you know, during early access, and make sure, you know, we get that kind of community feedback and you know, that our vision is correct and everyone likes it and everyone gets it. So everything is, you know, spot on. So we just get stronger and stronger.
If with the early access, have you got like a rough estimate of how long you hope to be in there? I mean, that obviously changes so much, but like, is it going to be 6 months? Is it going to be a year? Is it going to be a couple years?
At the minute we don't know. We've got plans and milestones, and they're already worked out. So we'll look at the feedback.
Right.
So the better it goes, you know, the more that we can absolutely smash it and everyone gets it, and we can add more content and everything, the faster. You know, but we want to make sure it's right.
Now, also really exciting, and one of the reasons I took my interest in this was, you know, when it all got announced and things happened, console plans were kind of listed at some point as well. And is that still the case? Like, obviously, again, it will be down the road. I don't think anyone should really maybe expect it to pop up this year, but is that going to be the case that there will be a focus on consoles in the future?
Yeah, definitely. There's, you know, in kind of pre-production, this was always the case. So everything's being designed with that in mind.
Oh,
you know,
great stuff.
Like saving to UI to the controls, everything. You know, so it's all in there to give you this kind of you know, easily kind of portable experience. And again, you know, we've got different sorts of players. Survival works on console and PC. Again, we're covering as much as possible. You know, we're doing as much as we can, but yeah, it's definitely in the plan. I can't say when, because then the programmers would probably shoot me. So
Merge Games are the publisher, and obviously now you're part of that team that's developing it and stuff. And they've got a history of doing lots of good ports for console, actually, like lots of small indie games. But it does seem like Smalland's probably like the biggest thing they've probably ever done.
Possibly, yeah. Well, there's various things in the pipeline that I know about that obviously I can't tell anyone about. But yeah, I mean, Smalland is, you know, figuratively and literally big. You know, it's a really big game. When you kind of port in something at the last minute, you know, it can be difficult, especially with you know, UI can cause all sorts of issues and things like that. But we've planned for it since pretty much day one. You know, since Merge kind of were involved and everything. So it should all work. You know, and that comes down to some of the gameplay features, as well as most of it is the kind of technical stuff. Yeah. You know, making sure we've got limitations so it runs and everything. It's the same experience. And like I say, UI is normally the big one.
With the success of so many survival games, it's going to be nice to see Smalland fit in alongside games like Grounded and like Ark or Conan Exiles, and have its own thing and stuff. I guess coming out maybe then this year, you got consoles. What about modding and stuff like that? Is that a possibility in the future, or not yet?
It's definitely a possibility in the future. It's not something we focus on right now, because once you start doing that, it's a hell of a lot of work. But it's good. Things can. Smalland is all about you having ownership of your base, of your character, the world. You explore it. So modding adds us more to that, and it could be really, really good. A lot of my early design experience. I was playing loads and loads of like Half-Life and Quake mods, and you learn a lot. There's some great ideas there. It was great, but at the minute there's so many other things we want to do first. So it's on the list, but it's not the focus at the moment. No. We've got a lot to do with making sure that when we do go into early access, it is the vision kind of realised and everything makes sense and it all works.
Nice. I mean, so you've been working on it a while, and what drew you and Merge Games to Smalland? If people, just for FYI, people that don't know, Smalland originally was a concept that came out like years ago, before Grounded, ages ago, and a great little trailer of these little characters running through a forest area, meeting woodland creatures. Very cutesy. The original development team couldn't take that project forward, and so they ended up selling the rights and their project to Merge Games, who pretty much got Kev, and have got a brand new team. The old team have got nothing to do with this version of Smallands. But what drew you to the project? Like, what is the original concept that you like so much?
So basically, when Merge acquired Smalland, it's because it was strong. It was a really good idea. It's a great concept. Again, it's something that you can sort of relate to, even though you've never been tiny, and it just seemed really good. And then it had this kind of really big community, a really wide community, so it seemed like a really, really good idea. And then it kind of sat around for a bit, and then I think just under a year, we had a team together, which was me and a couple of programmers, and we sat around and we wanted to do the original trailer, and the original concept absolute justice, because that's what hooked everybody in, and that's really good. But there were certain elements of it that need expanding, and the original design wasn't fully fleshed out. So we then sat around and did a load of pre-production to go, that's the game we want to make. We looked at this, the fact that it's got a really big target audience, of different ages and different interests, and then it's definite survival. That's what we kind of looked into and went, right, okay, these are the features we're going to do. This is the kind of filters, and this is the vision. And put it all together. So it was just a really, really good idea. It's exactly, if anyone hasn't seen the video that you did with the ground and the Smalland comparison, it's like, that's pretty much the story of what kind of went down, and we'll evolve it to make it reality. We want you to have, like I've mentioned, the ownership of your character in the world. So it's like design systems for that. And then it kind of all fleshed out. And then we turned, the small core team into a slightly bigger core team, but not too massive. And the rest is kind of history.
So just a couple little questions I asked, and Kevin gave me some great answers, but I shortened it just so you guys wouldn't have to have like a whole hour-long video. But basically, the size of the team is pretty small. Like, don't expect any Ubisoft size here. We're talking about maybe the same size as the Valheim game, 4 or 5 maybe core developers, and then outsourcing, getting extra help from maybe extra contractors and stuff. So then I don't think they're even as big as the Grounded team, which is around 17 to 20, and they're certainly not as big as maybe like Ark, which took 6 months with 60 people working on that game back in 2015. Yeah, the progress is amazing. From where I saw this a while ago to suddenly seeing actual proper, B-roll footage and stuff of like creatures being reared, and the animations on them are looking great, and the scale and the different armors, the way the characters look good in certain pieces of equipment and stuff. It looks really good, much further along than I thought it would be. And I've said that before.
Yeah, it's definitely getting there, and like every day there's something new that crops up. And it's just getting everything in. We thought it might be a bit of a risk, actually, showing all the kind of white box stuff we showed off a couple of months ago that weren't quite ready. But again, we got really good feedback, because we wanted to show something that's like it's not ready, but it's very clearly not ready. Those big cubic trees that I'd built as tests and things like that, and you're running around. So we're showing everyone the actual sheer scale. It's massive.
Yeah.
And it's a really weird thing, actually, because when you look at a game, you see a tree, right? And you go, yeah, it's a tree. But you don't realise it's actually like half a mile away. Because we've got these trees, and they are huge. They are like skyscrapers. So we've had to do a lot of kind of technical work to make sure that you do feel that scale. It being this massive scale has, huge benefits. It feels great, but also, it's not straightforward to kind of implement. So
no. I guess
we have trees literally like skyscrapers. They are huge. When you fall off them, it takes like a long time to fall to the ground.
Well, I've just seen. I'm watching the little GIF on the latest QnA for the Friday that you just did, and showing that you'll be able to build on the trees, but also there's going to be specific points that you can build that have more benefits, or you can even take your bases around. It sounds great. Like some of the features you've got, where you've got the base building tick box, you've got the taming tick boxes, you've got the exploration. Yeah, I'm really excited. I just can't wait to hopefully get more info and dive into it. What do you reckon about some of the other aspects though, like multiplayer and PvP features? How do you manage all of them sort of expectations? You mentioned early access will be where to see where people prefer one thing or another, but yeah, it's interesting that you have still got plans for PvP and stuff.
It's so PvP is like a huge spectrum. It can be very, very simple between friends, or it can be like a massive part of the strategy. And it's great in like both ends of the spectrum. It really works. So we looked at PvP, because a lot of it is PvE. Because you've got this giant world, and everything is out to kill you, and you kind of have to work your way up and get like it's because they're creatures, and there's a food chain that you know that spiders eat things and things attack other things and feed off this. We adhere to that. It's not like a nature documentary where it's full on super hyper realistic, but we do work really hard to get this kind of plausible belief. So we want to put PvP in, but then it would take like double the amount of balancing. It's a lot of work, to be really.
Yeah.
So it's like, to do this well, it's going to be a huge amount of work. But also, there's other games that will do this better than us.
Yeah. So
like, what can we do? So we have plans for like an arena that has kind of ties into the fiction and things like that. And the idea is, you would ride creatures. You have this kind of Royal Rumble of creatures. I mean, like that would be great fun. Whether you win or lose, whether you're good at PvP or not, it should just be a really good laugh to have, you and a spider versus loads of ants or even ladybugs and things like that. So that's what we want to do. That's the plan for it. But we're going to put that off to an early access just because it's a huge chunk of work. So we're doing everything. We're doing it in stages just because there's a lot to kind of go in, and if you stretch yourself too thin, you have like loads of features, and they're all kind of a bit meh. But we want really strong features. So we want players that players who just want to go out and fight, right, and fight as many things as possible. We'll cater for that. Right. And the if you want to just go and build and do whimsical things and just collect stuff, you can do that. And the game is non-linear. We will track your progress of how much kind of cool stuff you do. But if you want to be really whimsical, you can do that. If you want to fight, you can do that. So once we got that sorted, then we'll move on to PvP as well. But also there's some base stuff we've got ideas for and other things. So it's weighing up like who wants what and who's shouting the loudest, which is what early access is for. And I go, right, that's what we're going to implement next. That's what we're going to look at.
But yeah, is there a danger of trying to reach too many sort of player bases?
Well, that's what we early access is for.
Yeah,
we'll see. Because one of the strengths of the game is this huge wide audience, and we do read everything. I definitely read everything. The team reads everything. We're going. What do people want? What do people expect? Does it match expectations? And we're trying to and that's what all the kind of dev diaries information we put out. So we kind of define the kind of the game style and the world and the kind of world building. We really wanted to put PvP in for launch, like a really big PvP thing in, but it was to do it right. It's a big chunk of work, so it's going to go in during early access.
Yeah,
all going well pretty quickly as well. So
Oh, nice. I mean, it's just music. It sounds so good. It does, because so many games. I think you've got definitely fans that are worried something's got too much PvP. They don't want to be attacked by players when they're exploring the world. Then you've got fans that just live for that. That's the whole point of playing survival games. It's not just the environment and the creatures in it, but it's also what happens when you come across other players. Being able to add that in and gauge what people really want and what's working and tailor it around that, I think that's a smart move, really, rather than try and do it all at once and then realise that actually you wasted way too much time on one aspect that not a lot of people enjoy.
That's it, and there is so much kind of like focused on the PvE element that we don't want to undo that as well.
Yeah.
So if you want to play by yourself, you totally can. If you want to play with a lot of friends, you can. But because we've got this world to explore, and the exploration is a huge part of it. And we've got massive heights. The game's big. The world is huge. It's really, really, really big.
Have you got a number for that? Like, could you say it's 10 kilometers by 10 kilometers? Like, if you based it on other maps and stuff?
I can't say at the minute, right?
but it's big.
Yeah, we had like an internal demo, and we had these different kind of sectors, and everyone's like, "This is huge." I'm like, "No, this is just a test level. It's going to be like 10 times this." And I was like, "Geez, now it's massive." We're going, "Yeah," and it takes a lot of planning, and it takes because it's none of it's procedurally generated. All of it is kind of hand built,
handcrafted.
Because exploration is really important. If you're climbing up something, right, and then you make a jump that you can't make and you fall off, it's not fun. If there's something clear and you're going, "Look, there's a risk here. Are you going to do it?" And you go, "Oh, I'm going to risk it," and I die. You go, "That's your own fault," and that feels okay. But when it feels like it's the game's fault, none of that's kind of fun. So we hand build everything.
Yeah.
Everything is grey box. So all the heights and the secret entrances to various different things. It's all kind of hand built. So we've got this fully crafted world. But we started out with like a formula to go, that's what it looks like. So when there's a scary area or a threshold, you go, if I go through there, that's a shortcut. But there's a chance I'm gonna get jumped by something.
Yeah.
And
so having the right equipment and making sure you've got the right armor types.
Survival. You're always going forwards in the game. You're always, everything you do, the more time you put in, whatever it is, whether it's not fighting, whether it's just exploring, whatever, everything has value.
I guess you've got quite a few sort of biomes planned for that. Obviously, being sort of nature, from the stuff we've seen, it looks like it's a mix of sort of forest, but also backyard as well, or gardens. You can see houses in this, or dining tables that you can jump on top of. But that seems like that might just be like a sort of one-off feature, and the rest is kind of sort of forest, or is it a real big mix of both of them, sort of man-made things and sort of natural landscape?
All right, okay. I'll give you the big scoop on that one, where we've been holding it off, right? But the idea is that you kind of emerge. It's now the timing is right, and you kind of emerge out of the ground, having lived under the ground, and it's this kind of big enchanted forest. Not too magic. No, not magic.
No, not too whimsical.
It's rich. It's got it's nice. It's colourful. It's untouched by human hand, and loads of nice, loads of flowers and colours, and it feels really good. And then you get to a point and you see certain things and going, hang on, what's happened here? And there is no humans, but something's happened, which has allowed you to now kind of come out of the ground. And what we want here is the players, like lore, the story of SMALLAND helps guide you and explain tutorials and shows you things to go, right, okay, this is what the goal of the main game is. There will be hints to why things are overgrown. Why is this kind of like weird, human-sized car parked here and things like that. So yeah, we've got biomes. We've got a whole biome that's completely hidden. Right, it's completely hidden. You've got to go and find it. And there'll be also like secret tunnels to things like that. So again, exploration is massive. The human side stuff allows us to do that as well. It's really, really good. Plus, that's the kind of fun stuff, because again, that's the kind of things you can relate to, like the giant slide. We've got this giant slide. It's really cool. But yeah, these elements that are the human elements, which are massive, they're really good fun, but there is a reasoning behind it all. Now that bit I can't give away too much, because we want you to go and find that. What are your theories? That's part of the fun. That's part of the exploration. And again, there'll be resources and cool things to help reward you when you do put the time in to kind of discover these things.
I'll next ask Kevin about the style or the art. I really like it. It's very different to Grounded. It's not as sort of cutified, as Grounded is, and it's maybe not as ultra realistic as other games. It's definitely got its own unique style. Also spoke about how the creatures in the game are going to look not too cute either, and they are definitely more on the realistic side.
If you're walking along and a big giant creature just kind of like smashes into you from behind and kills you, it's not much fun. It's like, I just died. Because you're so small and everything's so big, and it's fast because again we've got kind of semi-realistic speeds, so things can work properly. So we've implemented this this feature where if someone sees you, they can stalk you. So they creep up behind you, and you get like a warning around it, and it really adds to the tension. You're like, hang on, what's that noise? I can hear something creeping on me. You turn around, and there's a spider kind of sneaking up on you. So it gives you, a bit of time to run or fight or whatever. So you don't.
That's really cool, because like one of the worst things in like Ark and stuff like that is sometimes you just be walking along the beach and bam, a raptor just jumps at you from nowhere, or there isn't much warning unless you're really super knowledgeable about them biomes and exactly what lives in there. You'll just get absolutely murdered in games like that. So having a chance to maybe escape or at least react is pretty cool.
Yeah, and again, it's that kind of emotional kind of gameplay where if you just get hit, that's a disappointment.
Yeah,
and get killed. But if you hear something's coming at you and you're not, oh crap, I'm about to get eaten, the fear's there, and we've explained what it is. And there's loads of little things like this that when you're building a game where you are the smallest thing in the game, loads of issues come that you wouldn't have thought of. But loads of little bits like that. So that's why we want to take time to craft this experience and make sure that you do feel kind of vulnerable and small, and you're out on your own and it's survival, but also that it's fun. It does work. It's not just hard for being hard's sake. It's which I think the best of other games do that. There's risks involved, and you're like, I'm gonna get this, I'm gonna risk it, and you're like, no, you just lost everything because you've died, and you're like, oh man, that was on me, and that's kind of fun. That's part of the kind of survival games that you do feel somewhat unprepared and naked alone, but you'll risk it anyway.
Next up, I asked Kevin about base building, but I've made it a much shorter insert here because I did waffle on for about 2 minutes talking about it, but how important it is for base building, and that previously they've mentioned you'll be able to base build almost anywhere, but there might be some bonuses or certain specific areas that will give you more reason to build there.
Yeah, I suppose I think the base building is the thing that we've changed and redesigned the most.
Right.
So we looked at all these games and we saw some of the games do like fantastic jobs of this, and it's really good, and it's that complete ownership, and people are just happy just to build, and create this little kind of world. I think Grounded absolutely nails it. It's really, really good. So we did initially pare back on this. I went, okay, all right, we're going to keep it simple, and then we're aiming to have you move between servers and things like that, lots of technical stuff. So everything you build and you take this ownership, we want you to take it with you. So you've got this ongoing base. So you do put love and heart into it.
So a bit like Fallout 76's, base aspects, camps and stuff. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's but with that, there's tons of issues that aren't fun to fix. You can exploit massively. So that's why it's not 100% nailed yet, but that's our goal. In the lore of Smalland, trees are important. Trees are really, really good. They're providers. They're all this kind of thing. And because you've lived underground, you're the kind of Smalland race, the main protagonists, they shouldn't have lived underground. It wasn't for them. But now's their time to kind of reclaim everything. And again, the trees are provided. The trees have helped. So we make a big deal about this. And then we have these big old trees. And if you build with the trees are huge. They are absolutely massive. We built one and went, it's too big. Then we looked at it and went, hang on, let's have a go at this. And we spent, a good kind of week or so just messing around with ideas and went, hang on, this could work. Let's go all in. So we had different camps. We had different size camps. And then we went, no, hang on, let's go massive. So we've got our own kind of distinct building style. It ties into the lore. And we're going to have, I don't want to say too much, but the kind of the goal of Smalland, as a player is you've lived underground. Your job as there's pathfinders that have gone out and they're studying creatures. They're kind of like in there, they're not engaging or anything, but they're studying, and they're going, and they help speak for the creatures. They're going, ants are hard workers, and they do this and do that, and the bees are like, and then you get different perspectives, because obviously it's somewhat realistic. The creatures don't talk. The NPCs, these kind of pathfinders, talk for them, but your job is to kind of trailblaze, and you go out there and make it safe. So you can get information from the pathfinders and some guidance and help with what to do next, or give you some kind of reasonings and purpose, which is great. But your job is to go out and make the world safe, and then you start bringing people with you. So we want these big kind of tree houses, and then you start to get people inside them and things like that.
Settlements
so
and stuff.
You build this big fort. So the gameplay, the story, and then the kind of player goals, they're all kind of aligned with this kind of thing. So yeah, the building in the trees, it's good, it's unique, and it feels great, and hopefully, we do survival games justice by having these kind of special encampments. I mean, you can build anywhere you want. We have no restrictions. You can build anywhere. Obviously, you can't build on water and things like that, but we've got ways around this. You can have very, very intricate, stylized bases. You can do what you want, and you have that freedom. And once you build in a tree, that's your house, and you can potentially take that with you. That's our goal. So you can move servers and all that kind of business.
Well, in terms of the sort of creatures and taming, I mean, I'm seeing bees. We've seen like the lizard, and we've seen ladybirds. Have you got a rough idea of how many creatures will be there for early access?
Yes, but that changes on a daily basis. So we've got each creature has a completely different set of animations and audio, and then the audio is very, very important. Like the states. So we see things that are friendly, or we try and put personality into them.
Yeah.
So each one, it's not like slapping another creature in, because that's what we tried doing, and then as I mentioned previously, the spider thing, it didn't feel right. So we put this work into it. So okay, cool. So what we have now is we have different states of different creatures, and each one has a personality. So for instance, the kind of black ants will they're really hard workers. They're solid. They don't mess with you. They pretty much ignore you because they're dedicated, and they kind of move in unison, and you can see that compared to other creatures like the bees, who just kind of float around and mill around. And they're very similar to the characteristics. If you attack one, they will all turn on you and ignore you. Now, a ladybug is more like a pet, like a dog. They're like the dogs of the game, and they're like your best friends. But they don't really do. Well, they have some hidden features, right? But they'll come over and they'll kind of sniff about and look around you, and then you can talk to them, or well, not talk to them, but you can interact with them, and they'll just wander off. So they come and give you a sniff, and then walk off again. The red ants are very much like the black ants, but they're angry. They don't build. They take. Yeah, they come after you, and they're what's yours is theirs, survival of the fittest. But if they see something bigger than them and scarier, that higher up the food chain, they'll run. They're like cowards. Right. They're angry, they're noisy, and they're loud in comparison, but they'll run away. Whereas a spider, if you cross its threshold and you enter its area, it will fight no matter what. It will fight its friends. It will fight other spiders. It will fight anything smaller than it. It will fight anything bigger than it. It will not back down, right?
And
then we've got the lizard. It's this big old lizard, right? It's big. It will attack anything. Again, that won't back down either. But it's a bit more like, if you go near it, it will growl at you. And you go, okay. But it will leave you alone. And it's like, as long as you don't go near it, it'll go, look, there's a line. Like, if you cross this line, I'm going to attack you, and I'll see you as a threat. But you stay there, and I'll stay here. You go, okay, cool. All right, no worries. Bees, wasps. There's a couple we've had to drop already.
Right, okay. But there's still more room for them in early access, maybe, and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. We've got loads planned. It's massive. But we need to make sure that everything has a reason. So we've got tons. We recently had a lizard and a salamander. And again, I've done a ton of research on creatures, and I didn't realize that lizards and salamanders were very different.
Yeah.
And I just thought a salamander was like a spicier lizard, but no, I was way wrong. I'm like, okay, this needs like a proper design, and it's not just an alternate version. It needs
to just a reskin. It does need more.
It look at it, you're like, well, it's very similar, right? But no, it's not. So there's a few things like that, and we make sure that all creatures work, and we want bosses as well. We want these kind of boss creatures and encounters, things where players rally around and for like a common goal and take some creatures out. That's really cool. I mean, the bosses are a little bit easier for us because They don't have, they're just there for a massive fight, which may need certain mechanics or whatever, but everything else is integrated into the game world. You look at it and it should be reliable. And there's gameplay elements, but also it should reflect how you expect a spider to react, or expect a ladybird to react, all that kind of stuff.
Are you going to be able to tame like every creature, or is it just only a selection?
Only a selection, and again, it's a lot.
Yeah,
it's a lot. So like red ants, they have no interest. They're just there to take. And again, how they behave, that should be kind of obvious. They're always just angry all the time. Anything that's kind of passive or even friendly, you can. But then we have kind of different types of the same species. So there is like these kind of spooky spiders, and that are kind of more like angry, and you enter their area. That's it. You're venturing to certain doom unless you're prepared for it, which you can be. But then there's some other spiders that kind of work more in harmony, and they're going to be, well, we're kind of going into kind of story territory here, but yeah, there's a reason for that, and so those ones you can ally with.
And that's good, because as much as like people love cute creatures and stuff, there's nothing still better than being able to ride a badass sort of dinosaur or a meat eater and stuff.
Yeah. It was something that we had like early on in the game, and again, it was meant to be quite far into kind of gameplay, and then we did some internal tests, and then we went, hang on, this is just too much fun. It's really good. Don't put this off. This is a highlight. So we brought mounts in a lot earlier, like really early in the game, and they were quite something you had to earn. And now it's like no, we'll do the mount. So that meant the mount mechanics had to get deeper. So there is like a sense of progression and benefits for different things. So each mount has its own kind of style and benefits. No one is better than the other, but they have
unique
very
stuff.
Specifically, some that are immune to poison, are really, really handy. Some that, like a grasshopper, is great for getting around, but it's not a fighter, that kind of thing. So the design had to get deeper, and even like the level design had to change to accommodate this.
Yeah, gating off too much stuff. Like, Ark has got hundreds of creatures nowadays, and definitely there's creatures that never get used because they've just got no real use. There's other creatures that do it better, faster, quicker, or easier to get. And you kind of lose like a big chunk of gameplay in having these creatures running around if they don't have their own special uses.
Exactly.
But even in that side, you can still, if you've got the skills and knowledge, you can go and get a wyvern straight away, or a big T-Rex. You don't have to start off on the smaller creatures. You can go and get the big ones, and it's just a load of fun. If you manage to get like a wyvern or a T-Rex in Ark in the first few days compared to running around on parasaurs, you feel like a badass. You feel like you have much more fun taking out the creatures. That game can cope with that. But yeah, I do get the idea of like also though that older style you might have had where you wanted it to build up a bit slower, or find that you really had to work hard to be able to tame creatures. But then again, in such a big world, it kind of makes sense that you'd have more easy access maybe to creatures to move around it.
It's, you look at these things like in terms of like player goals. The player should always have lots of goals, because it's like a non-linear game. It should be
sandbox feel.
You could focus on getting like a spider to ride on, and that's the first thing that you do because you dedicate towards it. Or you may play the game and nothing, you never even see these kind of like hidden spider faction, and that's totally fine. So that has a big knock-on effect on the game world. And again, wide target audience. If you want to go and do a bit of everything, you can. So there should be. It's a giant world and you're tiny. So this kind of content, that's the kind of things that we need, to help kind of fill out this giant world. And again, we'll see what, what plays like the most and what's the most fun. But yeah, like there's like 4 or 5 of us all like leaping around on grasshoppers. And you're like, listen, it looks cool. It feels cool. It's good. If this game was a movie, this needs to happen at the start of the movie to hook you in.
Yeah,
it's these kind of like big beats that kind of go, it feels good, and I want to do that.
It does look good as well. Now I'm looking at the trailer, and it shows like the seasons and stuff, like the snow coming in.
Yeah.
How big a part is that going to be in Smallands? Like,
That's massive. It's big. It's really big. It's something that it's really big, and I've not spoke about it kind of enough. But we want Smalland to be this kind of emergent world that will change. There's constant like updates and changes because exploration is so massive, right? Winter isn't more difficult than summer. Now, again, in terms of insects and flowers, in real life it kind of is. There's less of these things. But we want to make sure that if you're playing in the first experience is winter, it's no more difficult. Some things might be harder, some things will be easier. So we change the way that the plants grow per season. Right. And we change the way the creatures spawn per season. They'll change spawn positions. For instance, you've got like a wasp hive, and you go near it and they're all angry and they kind of come after you. But the resources you get from wasps are really good to use for other factions and things like that. So killing stuff like wasps and going against them once you're prepped for it is really good. Now in winter you don't really get wasps, but you can. So what we do is you find like a pocket. So the hive structure, whatever, is kind of abandoned or hibernating, but you will find pockets of wasps that are like hibernating somewhere warm. So again, like exploration and things will change, and that's really good. What helps with Smalland is because you've been underground, everything's new to you. Now the player knows how seasons work, but we can explain them. And again, you should get this kind of really kind of cool, plausible belief. You go, yeah, that's how I imagine it to work in real life. But then we can add some extra kind of cool bits to it. Like, again, there's hidden things and seasonal stuff and certain areas that only become available at certain points. So the seasons, are big. We want you also, when you collect your armor, one of the goals is, and this kind of goes back to, loads of games do it, but I find that one of the first that really affected me was like Diablo 1 and 2. Where you go, I've got this really sweet looking like armor. It's cool. That's my look. I've got ownership of it. I look badass. It's awesome. Then you go, hang on a minute. I need this better armor for this situation. And you're like, I'm torn between practicality and
what I just like the look of.
Yeah, I look absolutely fabulous, and I don't want to change that. I look good when I'm killing things. And then we kind of go, okay, but because there's armor to collect, you collecting armor for specific situations that will help you is good. It does get hot in summer, and it does get cold in winter, and there's more storms in autumn and more rain in spring, and it does affect not just you but the game world. So the creatures react how you'd imagine them reacting.
As part of Smalland's original plans before they were bought out by Merge, they had raindrops being quite dangerous. Like one raindrop could potentially take you out or cause you damage. But Merge have dialed that back again because they just realised it wasn't very fun. So Kev explains it a little bit more.
The whole raindrop thing and people like, dodging raindrops as they come through. It's like, no, that needs to be like a first person game where it's kind of very specifically scripted. Otherwise, just like being hit like from a giant spider from behind, it's just not fun. I've just died and it's no good.
Yeah, there's benefits and negatives to everything that's going on, whether it's a storm or whether or not it's, for the player, not just something to hinder them.
Yeah, exactly. It's really easy to go, oh yeah, it's really hard to play. And you go, yeah, it's hard, but what's the benefit? Why am I doing this? If there's no goals, it's not much fun.
That sounds great. Kev, I've taken up way too much time than I think we originally planned, but it's great to hear so many good plans, and it sounds good. I honestly, sometimes I worry it's too good to be true, like mixing it, like, seeing all the systems, you got the story, you got the lore, you got the taming, you got the seasons. So I really do hope it all comes together, and I'll do my best to help you guys out and hopefully follow and get a look at some of this stuff.
Yeah, no, we was making sure that it's going to be good, and everything that I mentioned is absolutely 100% planned, and it will happen, during early access. It's just how much we get in first, and we'll make sure that core experience that people understand it and they get it, and it just feels good. It's kind of like some of the ideas are, weirder and things like that, but the team get it, and it's really good, and everyone's been really supportive. So yeah, we just need to, we want to get it out, and it's got to be spot on. I'm confident that there's loads of stuff I haven't told you, because I don't want to tease too much, but everything I mentioned, we're going for it. It's going to happen, and it's going to be great, and we're really looking forward to it.
Nice. And the best place to find out all that information is absolutely go and join the Smallands Discord. Go and give them a follow on Twitter. and you'll get a good look at all their devlogs that they've been doing quite on the regular basis as well, which I really like. You guys have been really hammering it home with like the GIFs and the little videos and talking about the stuff. I've noticed like dragonflies are going to be rideable as well, and that it's all great stuff. It's looking good. So yeah, really appreciate it. Thank you very much, Kev.
No worries at all. And thanks for your time and thanks for all the support. It's massively appreciated. And working on 15 different systems and try and balance them all, and then you see, your vids and the Discord kind of feedback, it makes it all worthwhile. I'm not just saying that. It feels good. It's worth it. The late hours and trying to juggle all these different things. We're very, very passionate about it. We're very much dedicated to it, and the feedback's been brilliant, and it keeps us going. It's good, really, really good.
Good stuff. Thank you very much. Cheers, mate.